We're live.
Oh, so it still says off air, so I guess I was wrong.
It's live.
All right, so I found a place with somewhat working Wi-Fi that's relatively quiet, which actually is because right downtown right now, I'm telling you, because there are so many people, every cell phone possibility is dead. There's so many media people, so that every Wi-Fi within the arena is dead. Even the hard line is just like slow as molasses. So anyway, but we're in Nashville. I'm in the convention center, kind of the annex that connects the convention center with the hotel that I'm not staying at because it's way too expensive. But I'm here, and I'm right across the street from the arena right now. And I was just listening to some great music, and my gosh, the fact that I did this show, you should all be very thankful because it's such a party out there, man. I just mean that. I don't mean that in an obnoxious way. It sounded. I just mean it in the way that it's such a party out there. I did not want to leave the party at all, and even covering the game, because honestly, if you're in the area, just I mean, being outside, I can't imagine it would be any more fun to be inside the arena than it is outside. I've been to a lot of these outdoor parties that they have, in different cities, and this one just it just redefines it. It really does, because what's happening is, remember, the CMAs are going on here, so CMAs come on. Anyway. I don't know if you can see me showing up.
You're good. You're good.
Good. So the CMAs start Wednesday, and they run through the weekend. And that's why anybody's trying to get a hotel for Game 6 down here, good luck. You might as well just stay 20 miles outside the city. So that for the CMAs, they set up this big stage right on Broadway, which is this. So basically, it's as if there's a giant, and the streets are all blocked off. So it's just a huge party with bars on both sides of country music, and then a big stage at the end with country music. And some of the biggest stars in country music, because everyone's here for the CMAs. So it's enormously, it's just a party. I mean, I was told that, I thought to myself, wow, I don't ever remember a team putting up a stage like that for the Stanley Cup Finals until I realized.
Tampa did. There's teams that have.
Yeah, but I think this is a big, this is like your top notch. I mean, obviously the city knows how to stage things, right? So.
No. I mean, Tampa had Deep Purple. They had some real good bands.
Yeah, I can get it. Yes, but just lighting and everything, like everything is off the charts professional, and just from being in performing music for a while, this is just nothing is spared. So
the thing
that wouldn't be here though if it wasn't for the CMAs. It's not like an NHL event. That's the NHL has taken over for now, and they have decorated the stage with Stanley Cup signs and stuff like that. But it's really a CMA thing.
The thing that's surprising is that, and of course, we're going to continue the Anthem Singer Watch. Martina McBride would have been about 100-1 shot, because, I mean, don't get me wrong, she's great and she's very well known, but I was thinking, they're going to go, Taylor Swift, Garth Brooks, somebody like big, and they went with Martina McBride, and then that's great. But
she was okay though. She wasn't very good. I mean, I don't mean to be a jerk or anything like that, but I mean, this they've set such a high level. I didn't think Martina McBride really knocked it out of the park or anything.
Well, I'm not even talking about the quality of the anthem. I mean, she's a great performer. I'm just saying I'm surprised. Like, they went, Russ, they went more your direction. They went more classic. They went more, like country royalty than they did.
Like I said, they can go Dolly Parton. You can't. That she would be, her or Willie Nelson would be #1 in that category. And
yeah, in that world.
They wanted to go nostalgic, they could. But the problem is the record companies get involved, and that's when you get other people.
Yeah, I mean, I have not heard a peep about it. They're really super secretive. I was trying to find out some things today. Haven't heard a peep at all about it, but I have decided that Cody McLeod is the predator that sounds most like he should be a country singer based on his name. I mean, that name, when you think about it.
Yeah, that's a good country music name. I agree.
Cody McLeod there would be a fun game to do, name whether this person is a country music star or a predator. Because there are some interesting predators as well. So, but he's definitely the one.
Well, I think if you throw out Pontus Aberg or Aberg, you're gonna guess a predator.
You're gonna guess a predator, right? Or Arvidsson. You're not gonna.
Or Frederick Goudreau.
Right. Or Pekka Rinne is not exactly a country.
Yeah. He was the sidekick of Buck Owens on Hee Haw.
Right. But anyway, getting to the game, getting to the morning skates. I went to morning skates, and that was, it's always interesting. And I've been now. It's funny because the first morning skates I ever went to for Stanley Cup final were Peter Laviolette's. Because the first Stanley Cup final I covered was Carolina, Edmonton, and I remember being amazed at that Stanley Cup final at the fact that Laviolette runs a really fast-paced morning skate. Like he does not. There's nothing mellow. I mean, compared to the Penguins morning skate, which was really just a shoot-around type thing.
Mm-hmm.
The Predators morning skate was intense and high-paced, as Carolina's always was, as Philadelphia's always was.
Well, because Pittsburgh did have one of those the first day for game one. So I guess it's up to the coach. Like every once in a while, they have one of those,
Well, here,
I get you.
Let me ask this question because I find, believe me, I like to get as much information as I possibly can when it comes to, the Stanley Cup final, and you're getting updates from everyone regarding, the status of certain players. Nick Bonino walks into the building on crutches, has a boot, and they're saying Nick Bonino's out. No crap. Of course he is. He's on crutches. I don't care if he went out and skated. He's on crutches.
There was a funny thing. You get the percent he's done for the year, and there was a funny moment where Mike Sullivan in his press conference today went on basically what I would call a free agent advertisement for Nick Bonino, almost as if the Penguins can't sign him. So here's what's great about him, and here's why every team would want him basically, and they started listing things he does. It was a real interesting sign to me the way he said it. It's not the kind of thing you would say if you were planning on trying to sign the guy yourself. I think that as important as Bonino is. Based on that conversation, I would think he's probably is indeed going elsewhere. Because I don't think
I will say this for all those people in the U.S. that aren't watching the Stanley Cup, and I'm talking to Damian Cox again. Nashville had the largest local audience number ever, 16.6, and that's not like in millions. That's that's just the number. You have to go and figure out what that number means. But a 16.6, which is the number one, the top-rated hockey game ever on NBCSN.
This is incredible. I mean, there is nowhere you can go in the city, and it is all the more impressive because when I was talking to the Uber driver who brought me in today, it's all the more impressive because of the fact that the Country Music Awards are such a big deal that they usually would have this town completely taken over by now, and that's coming, of course, and that's that they aren't here yet. But he said even when they wouldn't be here yet, you would have a real big lead up to it. With this town and these fans, they just legitimately believe they're going to win that, and that's something that Kevin Allen said before, and he's absolutely right. It's not they just have had so many things break their way, and they're all on board. And there's a lot of like the diehard Predators fans. I saw a guy wearing a Scott Hartnell jersey today, and I went up to him and I said, yeah, you're definitely the old school Predators fan. Like,
or he's just cheap.
Yeah, right. And he said, yeah. I mean, yeah, for sure. I said, that's a good jersey. And he said, yeah. I said, you mind all these fans? He's like, nah, not at all. We need casual fans to be into this game. And I said, yeah, you're absolutely right. I agree with you completely. So it's really one of those things that this is cementing. This is why the NHL never tries to move teams that make it to the Stanley Cup Finals, or win a Stanley Cup, because this is cementing the city into hockey.
Now, this was interesting. We've been getting really great reports from the Nashville PR, but now they included a song of the day, and they put it as Right Now, which is Van Hagar, which I like the song, but a lot of people don't like that song. It's interesting that they chose that, though. I get why they chose it.
Okay, can we the certain controversies that have popped up, and Styx was the band in the arena on Saturday, and apparently played the song Renegade. Now I've only been in the arena, the PP&G Paints Arena in Pittsburgh for Media Day, but apparently Renegade is
it's a staple.
It's a staple song for the Penguins in their arena, and now there's a battle over Styx. This is like the first time there's been a battle over Styx since Mr. Roboto.
Yeah, and in hockey that's spelled STY, actually.
Yeah.
This is not a Styx battle. This is a Styx battle.
Yes.
So yeah, there's no the Styx though. I'm just going to solidify right now. Styx is a upper northern Midwest band. I mean, that's what they are, and they belong more to Pittsburgh and Chicago than they do Nashville. True,
but you know what? They're getting paid. They're happy.
Right. It's a paid.
Oh yeah. I mean, Pittsburgh. But they really belong to Chicago. Like if you've been to Styx, they play in a very obscure. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of REO Speedwagon. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no. Don't do that.
How dare you? Dennis DeYoung is going to come after you.
Dennis DeYoung's been out of sticks for 20 years.
I know he has. I'm just saying, but he has the free time to come after him. That's what I'm saying.
But the first two bands I ever saw live as a kid were REO Speedwagon and Styx. So I always confuse them. But REO Speedwagon in Chicago, they played the most obscure REO Speedwagon song before the third period every game, and it's one of these things that always surprised me. That's an awesome. But these are both up Western bands in my mind. So this is how I see it. But anyway.
Well, let's just say this. Let's just say this. The two bands that you saw, one of them is great, one of them sucks, and Styx does not suck. So, but okay.
All right, Mike, we'll talk about the merits of high infidelity at some other time.
But the other thing is this ridiculous mouthwash thing between PK Subban and Sid. What is this just distraction? Is this just like, is this just PK trying to keep the pressure off by creating something?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
but we can't have travel days in the Stanley Cup Finals. It's just not. we have to slam these things closer together so no one has the time to think of this kind of stuff. Yeah, it's I don't know. It is probably the stupidest of all. I've been around a lot of stupid Stanley Cup moments. Chris Pronger stealing the puck, from Chicago. Was one of my favorites, but these kind of things. This
is really dumb to make an article out of it. It's just it really is dumb. And you know what? And I thought Crosby took the high road because he wasn't going to go down into that rabbit hole. And good for him.
Right.
And he does have a point. He goes, look, I didn't say it, and if he's going to make it up, I can't stop him.
Right.
But the thing is that. The thing is that PK, and you may not know this, Zach, but about half an hour ago, he walked into the arena carrying a bag of mouthwash.
Oh, God.
So
no, I think that's great. That's great. That's PK. No, I think it's funny because I talked to the Uber driver. Again,
I mean, it could be great, or it could really fire up the Penguins, which is really dumb to do.
Nothing's going to fire up the Penguins. I mean, the Penguins. I mean, they're one game. This is an experienced team, one game away from winning. Winning a Stanley Cup. If they win tonight, they're in great shape. They're 2 games away, but obviously, win tonight, they're 1 game away. I don't think anything that matters. I mean, the funny thing is, you talk about all the inexperience on one side.
It matters to Sidney Crosby.
Maybe. I mean, the inexperience on one side, the experience on the other side. It's interesting talking to the coaches today because you realize when it comes to the coaches, they're both really experienced in this. Like, Sullivan's been through 1. This is Laviolette's 3rd. This is like, to me, the coaches have no. Laviolette looks totally relaxed, and I've seen Laviolette not look relaxed. And, we all have, but he's completely. And the Predators are relaxed. Their practice before was really high paced. They looked good. There was the really most interesting moment, and I videotaped. I'm going to try to post it somehow. Mike Fisher working with the face-off guys for the other face-off guys for the Predators, and literally for about 20 minutes. It was very long for a skate. So while the other drills were happening in the zone, he was out at center ice, and he was doing a back and forth, and he was showing these, and he was very animated in showing them how to beat certain Penguins on faceoffs. Because you got a lot of young centermen. So that was what was really.
That's smart. Yeah.
He really was. He was completely adamant about it. He did his thing, and it was great.
Well,
it was great to see.
Now, okay. I know there was some criticism, obviously, of Pekka Rinne after the first 2 games. I thought he played better in Game 3, but I didn't think he played phenomenal in Game 3. So
he gave up 1 goal.
Doesn't matter, Russ. It doesn't matter.
Come on.
I agree with Russ on this one, Mike. Because I mean, it wasn't a matter of him. Okay, you could say it wasn't phenomenal, but where he was phenomenal was when the Preds got the lead, and the Penguins came back hard. When it was 3-1, if the Preds scored those 2 quick goals, that's the point at which Rinne earned his keep because he made some really serious.
To me, he was totally locked in.
Yeah, he made some serious momentum saves. He's a streaky goalie, and
again, I go with the premise in this NHL this day. Every goalie gives up a bad goal every game.
Yeah, no, and that's. I mean, and what is even a bad goal? I mean,
I know.
In the Stanley Cup Finals, it's like you have to be spectacular. It's not about not giving up bad goals. It's about being spectacular. Honestly, it's because if you leave up any goals at all, you're judged completely. I mean, now if Murray, say Matt Murray gives up 5 goals tonight, looking at another controversy. We're looking at Fleury returning for Game 5.
I still say no.
Yeah, right. I would say the odds are against them unless Murray gets re-injured. I think the odds of them going back to Fleury are slim to none.
Yeah, because he didn't give up 5 at home.
No, he didn't give up 5 at home, but say if he gives up 5 tonight, and,
won't matter.
They have. I think at that point, I would not. I don't know. I don't think so. But it's funny.
Murray is Sullivan's goalie. It's really obvious.
Unless Murray is hurt and we don't know it.
That's the only way. But he has to be really hurt.
Right.
I think that is possible. I think it is possible that something's up with Murray because there's certain things about his game.
Well, he did. He did have that problem in Game 1.
Yeah.
Or was it Game 2? Game 2, I think, actually. And he did have that problem. He got through the game. He got through last game. So it is possible.
Yeah. The thing about Murray that's the odd to me right now in his game is that he's on a few of longer shots that he normally eats up like a vacuum cleaner. He's not, and that's, I don't know what that is. That's something that he's giving up little juggles or tiny rebounds, which is not he's completely solid usually. So I don't know what that is. If it's nerves, I don't think it's nerves. I think it's because he's been here before. So I don't know. I think maybe there's something up. Maybe there's something mechanically going on that's causing him to judge and second guess things a little differently.
Maybe.
Nick, do you want to talk about some of the rumors that you posted
sure,
this morning?
Definitely. There's a lot going on in terms of there's a lot of feeling now that Vegas is about to do something or has done something. There are people who believe
I heard they've done stuff and we just don't know about it.
Yeah, I mean, let's just say this: George McPhee was at the draft combine. We're gonna talk about that later in the show. He was there and he was inundated with media. I mean, it was so bad that Russ and I couldn't even get within 10 feet of it.
You couldn't hear anything.
Couldn't hear a thing. But what I got from other reporters after he had spoken was the fact that there are things that are in the hopper that may have already happened, and that it makes sense. I mean, we're less than 3 weeks away from the expansion draft. We're a little over 3 weeks away from the draft. So we've got he's got to start making and solidifying some of these talks that he's had with other GMs. Okay, do we lose that?
I guess we lost him.
Okay, he's locked. He's okay. Well, and I'll talk about this, and hopefully he comes back. One of the things that Eck reported this morning was a potential Dustin Brown deal to Vegas, along with LA's first-round pick. And that's the thing, Russ. I don't know if that's enough. I mean, Dustin Brown is he's a good player. I mean, he's a good, character guy.
Yep.
But I believe he's 30 or 31, and he's
right in that range.
And he's got 4 years left in a contract at least. I'm checking it right now. I think it's 4, and maybe even 5. Yeah, no, it's 5. 5 years at $5.875 million, and I don't believe that contract is massively front loaded. It's not. And even at the end of the contract, it's $4 million. So he's, you're talking about a significant. You're talking about over $25 million in salary for the next 5 years. I can't say a first round pick is enough.
It's not. McPhee pretty much already said he's not going to get saddled with bad deals. I don't think he's taking that deal.
No, if he took, let's just say this, I think he would take Marian Gaborik's contract if he was sure that Gaborik is not going to play. Right,
which they're not sure of.
And if he wants to play, then then Vegas would be screwed because then he'd come back on the payroll. I mean, if he didn't play, he'd be covered by insurance. But that's what I'm saying. And I think we know that these type of deals are going to be made.
Yeah, I agree.
But not for guys with 5 years left in their contracts. It's just why would a team like Vegas from the drop put themselves in financial, a financial situation that would not be, perfect.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So the other one that Eck mentioned was, and I'm just pulling it up right now. Sorry. Well, okay. Mark Stahl going to Las Vegas to make room for the Rangers to sign Shattenkirk. Now Mark Stahl has 4 years left. Girardi has 3 years left. If we taking this report at face value, if they trade Stahl, I mean that means that the Rangers are not willing to buy out the remaining 3 years of Girardi's contract. The buyout on that would last 6 years, and I think it would be close to $2 million a year in dead money. I mean, based on the way they played, I mean, do you think that there's a dramatic difference between Stahl and Girardi?
There's not a dramatic difference, but Stahl is still younger. I think you get better play. Girardi's a better shot blocker. Stahl, a little better skater. Neither is great shakes, but I think you still have to buy out Girardi. And I don't think Vegas would really want either one.
And this is the thing, Russ. Okay, because we were at the combine.
Mm-hmm.
LA had they didn't make the playoffs, so they have a top. I think they were I think they were 10th, 11th, around there. They're not in the top 5. They're sort of a mid pick. The Rangers made the playoffs.
Right.
Their pick is in the 20s. This
right.
is, I mean, we all believe that there are quality players in this draft, but it's not like the willingness to trade a first round pick is reflective of the fact that this draft is not great. It's good, but it's not great.
Right.
So again, why, we know that Vegas wants to add young players to develop them, and if they get a couple extra first round picks, that helps them, but at the cost of adding, say these two deals are reflective of something that's going to happen. That's $11 million in cap space that you're spending just to get
right.
2 first round picks. I don't think McPhee is going to do that.
I don't think you will either. I see the benefit of getting some first round picks, but there is a point where how many do you want? You see when teams get multiples, it does, again, the odds of everybody making it in the first round, they're pretty high, but you're still not talking 80%, right? So all of a sudden, if I have 4 picks, you're hoping 3 out of 4 make it, but really, if you're spending that kind of money, 4 out of 4 have to make it.
Right.
Odds are they're not gonna. And so it's not worth it to take that money.
Now, we talked to people over the weekend, and there's no way to know right now how good the 2018 draft is going to be. There are a couple of young players like Svechnikov and Dahlin who might be at the top of the draft that could be better than players that are in this draft. But you don't know how deep that draft is going to be. If Vegas had an idea of how good that draft is going to be, and they could say, well, we want 2018 first round picks instead of 2017, maybe that would change the picture.
Doing that.
But no team, right, exactly. No team is doing that. They're not going to, it could be a situation where, the teams learned a lesson from the Maple Leafs back in 1990. You don't trade future first round picks, and then they end up being Scott Niedermayer.
Right. And in the end of the day, and Nolan Patrick took offense today. They had the guys there, and he took offense at people talking about this as a weak draft, and I don't blame him. Mm-hmm. And I give him full credit for doing that. With that said, you have to wait 4 or 5 years. I don't care if you think you're the top prospect guy in the world. Even the top prospect guy will admit, hey, I can only look at these guys and tell you what I think of them now, but I don't know what they're going to be in 4 or 5 years.
Right.
And that's the point.
Right. And I don't doubt that there is interest from the Rangers in Shattenkirk.
Sure.
We've heard it too much over the last 3 or 4 months that that's the general area he wants to go. Will it be the Rangers? Will it be the Devils, who have a ton of cap space? You know, the Islanders have a lot of depth on defense, so that wouldn't make any sense. You know, Boston has always been someone, but you know, he's going to the Northeast. He's going to that northeastern corridor more than that.
And somebody tweeted to us, and I just wanted to say, as far as Stahl goes, he does have a no move. We know that. I thought we were playing with the premise that he was going to agree, or the Rangers were going to give him some cash to drop the no move, because it's like, you know, they all those guys that we're talking about have no moves.
Yeah, and a no move is a negotiating piece.
Right.
That's what it is.
Right.
Now, I'm just saying, you know, the question is, how much is the Rangers prepared to pay Shattenkirk? I think the $7 million.
Kevin's the limit, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think the $7 million speculation is, I think that's out the window now based on how he played in the playoffs. I think if he's going to go to the Rangers and that's the place he wants to go, he's probably going to have to take a little bit less, and maybe it's closer to what Stahl and Girardi make. Not, you know, not 5, but like maybe 6. But you know, the question is, and you know, you cover the Rangers. I don't know how much better that makes them.
I mean, it makes them marginally better. I don't think it does the trick. And what's interesting is, if he gets paid $7, he'll have a richer contract than Wade Redden with the Rangers.
Yeah, and then you bring up that name for a good reason.
And he averaged 6.5. And so I wouldn't go in that deep. I just wouldn't. It's just the point for me is, his defense is adequate, which is fine. Mm-hmm. His power play would be great. Would he help the Rangers' power play? We think so, but we thought Keith Yandel would help it too, and it didn't. He didn't. So what if he doesn't? Then all of a sudden his worth is going down a lot. And so I'm not willing to do that experiment. I don't think it's worth it for them.
Now the other news, and it's not really news, it's speculation, but it comes from somebody like Bob McKenzie, who is, you know, the Rock of Gibraltar when it comes to hockey information. Mm-hmm. He was on a Toronto radio program this afternoon and was asked about the Ilya Kovalchuk speculation. Now, Elliot Friedman over the weekend on Hockey Night in Canada said that there were 3 teams that had previous connection to Kovalchuk from his time in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. Peter DeBoer, who was his head coach, who is with the Devils, is now the coaching in San Jose. Marty Brodeur, who was the goaltender on that team that made the final in 2012, he's assistant GM in St. Louis, and obviously GM Lou Lamoriello, who was the GM in New Jersey and now the GM in Toronto, mm-hmm. and that there is a level of interest from all those teams in Kovalchuk. McKenzie came out today and said that more than likely, you know, as sort of like a parameter, he would think that Kovalchuk is looking for is 2 to 3 years at $6 to $7 million. I can say, you know, and this is my opinion, if an NHL team spends that much money on a 34-year-old Ilya Kovalchuk, who we've heard has slowed down significantly from the time that he left the NHL, that general manager is insane.
Yeah, I don't think that kind of deal is out there, and I think he really is just – it's a negotiating ploy. I get reports from Russia, and SKA has money, and they're offering him money and a multi-year deal. The issue is he and his agent are staying pretty quiet, and they're going low profile in Russia. So nobody has a really great idea of what is going to transpire. So at the end of the day, I just don't think there will be an NHL GM to go deep enough to make that deal. And I think at the end of the day, Kovalchuk will re-sign with SKA, because even though people have the perception that the KHL is broke, which is partially true, that team isn't. That team has plenty of money.
Right. And yeah, I agreed. And what I think is happening here is, you know, Kovalchuk knows in a year he can be a UFA and go anywhere he wants. It doesn't there, but the trade, you know, a team trading with New Jersey doesn't seem to be the impediment in a potential Kovalchuk back to the NHL situation. To me, the impediment is the salary, is the contract.
Mhm.
You know, he left the NHL at age 30. He comes back at 34. He's played in international tournaments. Scouts teams have scouted him as they've scouted the KHL, so they know where he is. Yes, he had 3 good years.
Signs in the NHL, he would not be playing in the Olympics.
Right.
That's a big issue right now for him.
Well, see, I don't know how big of
it's a big issue. It is.
Well, then this is all just.
No, I mean, look, he might at the end of the day get paid enough where he says, "I've been to the Olympics, I'll miss it." But it's a big issue.
Yeah, and if he's saying, I'll miss the Olympics, but you're gonna have to pay me to miss the Olympics, then I would think NHL GMs will say, "Have a nice time in Pyeongchang."
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the way it's going to shake out, unless somebody really does go crazy money. But I just don't see it.
Well, right, and that's the thing. It's like it's tough not to compare Radulov to Kovalchuk in the sense that Radulov was in the KHL for a number of years. He is a UFA. He comes over. He signs a 1-year contract with Montreal. He signs over $5.75 million, and it's not like he was an unproven commodity. Everybody knew, like, when he played with Nashville.
He's a better skater than Kovalchuk too.
Right, he's a better skater. He's younger. He was 30, and Kovalchuk is 34. And Radulov had a really good year. He had I think it was 48 points.
Yeah,
a solid year. But you're talking a player 4 years older, and he's asking for, according to this speculation, he's asking for $1 million, maybe $1.25 million more on more than a 1-year deal, on a 2-year deal. Like I said, I would be shocked if Lou Lamoriello would do any kind of deal like that. Maybe a team that's really, really desperate for offense, Montreal. But I don't think it's happening. I think
I don't think so either.
Yeah. So
not in Toronto, no.
No, not in and I wrote about this yesterday. The only scenario I can see for the Leafs having interest in Kovalchuk is if they trade Van Riemsdyk for a defenseman, then really their number 1 offensive left winger is Leo Komarov, and that's not great. And all their right wingers are all right-hand shots, so they'd be challenged to move over to the left side. So. Right. Yeah, so it just I don't think that will work, unless Kovalchuk takes less than $6 million. And 2 years, that's fine for Toronto. They've got that gap with a lot of these young players, but I just don't think it's going to work unless they trade JVR and clear his salary, and they need an offensive left winger. So we'll find out in the next, I would say, week to 10 days what's going to happen.
See how it shakes out.
Yeah, exactly. Now let's talk about the draft combine, then we'll talk about the Edmonton Oilers expansion, and then we'll call it a day here because I'm waiting for Act to come.
There's Coyotes news too, but we'll talk about that in a bit too.
Yeah, and some news about Seattle as well. Okay, we're both at the combine, Russ. We both were sitting in on numerous interviews with players, and my general overview is, and I've only had one year of previous experience with the combine, and not to say that the kids weren't nice and presentable last year, but I was struck by the lack of attitude. They're just sort of very open to answering questions, very friendly. In general, first of all, the event was great in Buffalo, and the kids were great.
Yeah, it was a good group. I mean, it was a very strong group as far as maturity and went. So that bodes well, at least for them having a chance to make it to the NHL. You still have the talent, but maturity is a part of it. And so I was impressed with that. Guys tested well and guys interviewed well, but there was a lot of honesty. Like we spoke to Morgan Frost for a while, and winning the mean power output on the bike is a big deal on the Wingate. That's but again, I can go back and tell you that there have been other guys that have won that aren't stars, and so it doesn't mean that you'll be a star. It just means you have, you basically are a good skater. You've got, you're not. It's not even so much for skating. It's just that you have the wind. You basically you could handle a long shift. You could handle a lot of minutes. So the stamina is good.
Right. you know,
Brandon Manning was a guy that had a big number with that. Now he's an NHLer, but he's not a star. So,
yes.
You know.
And one of the things that will be memorable is the fact that I induced vomiting from one player.
You did. You were asking Pierre Olivier
Joseph, yes.
You were like 4 words into it, and he goes, "Just a minute," and he walked right over to the trash can and puked his guts up. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's like I didn't even get a chance to get 2 words out. It's like
no. And then the French media took over when he came back, so you didn't even get your question in.
Yeah, it's like if I would have gotten out 4 words, he would have projectile vomited on everybody.
He might have. So yeah, that didn't bode well for you. I agree with that.
Now, a couple things, and again, sometimes these things will mean a lot. Sometimes they'll mean nothing. But there are people who are looking at measurables. And whether certain player was this height or the wing, his wingspan. Like I know that like Joseph, for example, had a ridiculously large wingspan.
And he wasn't in the top 10.
Yeah, but one of the prospect defensemen, Erik Brandstrom, who's some people think is probably second half of the first round. He was in most of the publications as being 5'10", which is small, and the measurable was 5'9". And that's, that you don't think that inch makes a difference, but when you're talking about Ryan Ellis, or you're talking about Torrey Krug, or you're going back and talking about Brian Rafalski, there are not many defensemen who are 5'9" who can overcome that height disparity to make it as a defenseman. And Brandstrom's got high-end skill, and he might be able to, but
he was sixth in fatigue and second in pull-up. So at least if you're worried about other things because he's a smaller guy, he at least proved that maybe he could handle the rigors. Mm-hmm. Again, pull-ups don't prove a lot, but at least it proves that the kid's got some strength. And so for that size, he's very competitive, though, and he really, I think he still has a really good chance of making it. An inch is an inch, though, and we'll leave it at that. I was impressed with Dayton Rasmussen. He's a goalie, played in the USHL. He got traded. He ended up with Chicago, and he actually had a concussion, so he wasn't able to do the Wingate. And I only say that because I kind of wonder if he had a chance, would he be one of the leaders for that? Because he was second in the vertical jump, and you caught a nice picture, and I used that online. And he was pretty close on that vertical jump to being the leader. And then he bench pressed, and it's 70 to 80% of his body weight, 17 times. We thought it was about 120. And that's tough, man. And he almost did it 18. And the funny thing he told me, if you go to sportsology.com, you can read the article, that was a goal of his, to be the leader in that. And he was, and he won that. He's a goalie, and we don't look at goalies necessarily as the best athletes, but that's been changing since really Mackenzie Blackwood last year had that great vertical. And I go back to Mackenzie Blackwood this year had a 58 save game. Rasmussen's got a great glove, and he has really good mobility. And now we know he's super fit and strong too, so that could really bode well for him. And I think he did help his draft stock with this because he, again, he had a concussion. He couldn't do everything, but the things he did really well.
Yeah. And finally about this, and we'll probably touch on this before the draft because you'll keep referring back to the combine. The one thing that I thought was curious, and we talked to a lot of players, and one of my questions going questions was, how many teams did you talk to? Mm-hmm. And as opposed to last year where, there were, most players are saying, 15, 20, a lot, it was 29, 28,
right,
like 30. And it got to a point where it was simpler to ask, what team didn't you talk to?
Right.
And it was really surprising that the same team came up a lot in who didn't you talk to, and that was the New York Islanders.
The Islanders, Dallas, and Pittsburgh a little bit, but Pittsburgh's busy, right? Like we get.
You're right. Pittsburgh, Minnesota came up
a little bit too. Yeah.
Yeah, but so it's like, it's puzzling
I should point out that sometimes guys don't talk to the team there, but they did talk earlier in the season.
Sure, but
it is a little puzzling. I agree.
But it's puzzling about the team's presence.
Now, the thing that was more interesting to me was there was only one player that spoke to all 31, and that was Elias Pettersson. He was the only one.
Yeah. There were a few. Right, and from my point of view, my specific point of view, covering the Maple Leafs spoke to every defenseman who was projected to be in the first round. So, again, I've been saying for a while that I think the Leafs are going defense in the first round. Maybe if the guy who they want is not there, they will revisit that. I'm sure they're covering all their bases, but I think there's a focus there on getting a blue liner in the first round at 17, or maybe the Leafs trade up. So we'll see. Again, we'll see what happens.
And one more interesting fact was, the Flyers were talking to goalies, and the Rangers. The Rangers make sense because they don't really have a consensus top guy in their organization. Maybe it's Adam Huska, maybe it's a guy they have over in Russia. And the Flyers, even though George McPhee said, hey, I want Michael Neuvirth, well, he's under contract. And unless he really gives up something great, I don't think the Flyers are going to give him up because there's not a lot of guys out there. So it doesn't look great for Anthony Stolarz right now. He might be the guy that gets dangled. And so if that's the case, even though the Flyers are pretty deep right now in their organization, they might be getting another one.
Okay, why don't we touch on the Arizona news and the Seattle news before we go to the expansion draft. The Arizona news is that Andrew Barroway, who was the majority owner, but there were minority owners also as part of the Coyotes ownership group. Well, apparently today he bought out the minority owners.
So something's up.
So, and now I don't know for sure, but I believe some of those owners were Scottsdale, Phoenix based.
Mm-hmm.
So this to me would signal that he's circling his wagons for a potential pickup and move in a rather quick way.
Yeah, if there's only one owner, you could do that now. You literally just cut a deal in Seattle, let's say, and it's a done deal. And so now this is about the same timing as we've seen other teams move, and this news comes out today, and it raises eyebrows. It does.
And it comes out the same day, Russ, as the news in Seattle that there were two competing groups to build an arena, and now the group that is one group dropped out, and the group that includes Tim Lewicki, the former CEO of the Maple Leafs, and was involved with AEG, the Anschutz group that owns the LA Kings. That group is now the sole group in terms of getting an arena built or refurbished if they go the Key Arena route in Seattle. To me, that's moving it forward because they could have been battling for months. Now that there's one group, that's now being advanced. And it's to me, it's sort of like, okay, both of these things happening the same day can't be a coincidence.
No, it's not coincidental. It's not. I don't want to, sound mean to Coyotes fans or anything, but you got to connect the dots sometimes. And the dots are all lining up financially. So we'll see.
Yes. Finally, we'll discuss the Edmonton Oilers as the latest, as the team that we're going to look at for the expansion draft. Now, Edmonton is in a pretty good position in the sense that Connor McDavid is exempt, and they have some young players that they don't have to protect, but such as Kajulia and Puljujarvi. But
you know what? I say we hold that off. I just got an email from the NHLPA competition committee, and I think it's important.
Okay.
Let's push off Edmonton till tomorrow. Maybe we'll double up. So here's what we're saying. So this came in, and Rule 87 with timeouts. The committee recommends a change so that no timeout shall be granted following an icing for the team that committed the icing infraction. That's good. I agree with that.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. I think because especially in like overtime situations, in the playoffs, that could be the difference between having a tired team and having a good opportunity for a team to score and not. And but see, the thing was, Russ, I think that a lot of coaches now, they held back that timeout because of the review. So, I mean, I'm not sure how much that this is going to come into focus. I mean, let's just say this. I think if the competition committee does not address the offside situation to include, like they said, the NFL breaking the playing rule, that anything else that they do, I don't know if it's going to have, because to me, that is like the big thing. If they don't address that, you can do everything you want. I mean, I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference. That is something that I think is costing teams games.
I don't disagree, but here's the other one.
Okay.
The other one is the competition committee recommended a change so that when a team has a power play and a player on the team at full strength causes a stoppage of play as the result of striking the puck with a high stick in the offensive zone, the resulting faceoff shall be made in the neutral zone on the nearest faceoff spot. This makes the rule consistent with how the faceoff is addressed when there's a stoppage under the same circumstances when both teams are at full strength. I think that's another good recommendation, actually.
Yeah, I mean, both of those are sensible. I just think
other things you want aren't on here. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
And they discussed many other aspects of the rules, they said, and how the game's played. And this is a mixture of players and general managers and coaches and yada, yada. So,
And, I have no problem with either one of those recommendations. I just think that they're sort of very narrow in focus and not, just because something is, I mean, it's okay to change that. And I think I would be in favor of changing both of them. But I think when you're addressing something very narrow, when something rather big is out there, they sort of look like, what's the point? Like big deal.
Pearl is telling me the show is over.
Okay, well, we will yield to Perla's want, and we will leave.
The producer today.
Yes, Perla, the producer. Thank you very, very much. We will be back tomorrow. I'm not sure what time because I'll have to talk to Ack and see when he is available. And we will be back probably talking about the Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers for for Russ Cohen, for Eklund, and I'm Michael Agello. Thanks for watching, and remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.